Today I wanted to talk to you about a series of books that I really love and that I've had some hand in trying to get out to the public. This is the series called Puritan Treasures for Today, published by Reformation Heritage Books. I love this series of books because it gives us Puritan literature but updated into contemporary language. So every one of these volumes have been edited, the language modernized. Sometimes the books are slightly abridged to give us some of the best Puritan theology and practical teaching on Christian living, but to give it to us in a way that's pretty easy to digest. And I just wanted to highlight some of these volumes. This is one of my favorites. This is by George Swinnock, called The Blessed and Boundless God. It's a wonderful book that looks at the attributes of God, looks at the being of God, the works of God. It's very simple, very devotional, and yet really good theology. I would encourage this. It's a wonderful book. Here's a book that I edited by Richard Rogers. He was one of the early Puritans. This book is called Holy Helps for a Godly Life. This is actually an excerpt of a much larger book that Rogers wrote called 7 Treatises. It was a manual for Christian living that was very influential in the 17th century. Hasn't been republished in many years, but this is the third of those treatises, and this is the first Protestant systematic treatment of spiritual disciplines. There are lots of books on spiritual disciplines around today, but if you want to go back to where it all began within Protestant theologians and pastors, it's this book, and he looks at things such as Bible reading and prayer and fasting and many other spiritual disciplines. Also a very helpful book. Here's one that's just right off the press. This just came out. This is called The Cure for Unjust Anger by John Downham. Again, this is a book that I edited, wrote the preface for. This is a very practical book that shows the difference between righteous anger and unrighteous anger, shows why people tend to struggle with unrighteous anger, what some of the characteristics and symptoms of that are, and then gives very practical remedies for how to deal with anger. John Downham was a wonderful pastor and really a profound psychologist. I mean, this is years before modern psychology was even invented, but he handles this with amazing skill and could be very helpful to people who are struggling with anger today. And then here's one more I'll highlight. This is Comfort and Holiness from Christ's Priestly Work by William Bridge. I also edited this book. This is also fairly new, just came out a few months ago. This is based on a series of sermons that William Bridge preached on the priesthood of Christ. I love William Bridge. He's the most Luther-like of the Puritans, at least that I've read, and he was known as the persuasive pleader, because he just had such a way with words and pleading and entreating people to trust in Christ. This is a very encouraging book and one that I think you'll find useful. As you can see, there are a number of books in this series, and all of them are worth getting and considering and reading, and I think will be helpful for your spiritual growth. Thanks for tuning in.